Hi everyone, welcome back to another problem. So today we're going to be looking at the AMC 8 2018, problem number 19. So let's first read the problem before we start to work on it. So the problem says, in a sign pyramid, a cell gets a plus if the cells below it have the same sign, and gets a minus if the two cells below have a different sign. The diagram below illustrates a sign pyramid with 4 levels. And the question is, how many possible ways are there to fill the 4 cells in the bottom row so that we produce a plus sign at the top of the pyramid? Okay, so let's kind of experiment with this a little bit to make sure we understand the problem. So for example, if we were to do, so we have a plus minus in the bottom in the example given. Now plus, if we look at the first 2 cells on the left, so looking at this plus and this minus, they're different signs. So we make this cell here a minus. Now we look at this minus and this plus, different signs, means we make this a minus. And then you have a minus and a plus, so you make that a minus. And then now when you have 2 minuses, they're the same sign, so the cell above this right here is a plus. The 2 minuses here are also the same, so we make that a plus. And then finally 2 pluses is just another plus, so our top square becomes a plus, or our top cell. Right, so that kind of makes sense. And now the question is, how many different ways can we arrange the bottom 4 cells, or how many ways can we add a plus or minus in the bottom 4 cells so that the top is a plus? So there's a couple ways we can approach this. The first is just to brute force it, right? So there aren't too many possibilities. In fact, there would be 16, right? Because if you look at plus minus, you basically have each cell has 2 options, a plus or minus. So you have 2 options for the first cell, 2 for the second, 2 for the third, and 2 for the fourth. So there's 16 is a total number of arrangements we can have. Probably shouldn't circle it. So we have 16. And now we can kind of work our way through. So that's always one option, right? Now the next option is to work backwards. Right, so we could do this in something of a tree, right? So it looks like a tree. So we want a plus at the top. There's 2 ways to get a plus at the top. The second row must either be a plus and a plus, or it must be a minus and a minus. Right, now let's look at the plus case. The plus, again, pluses happen when the 2 cells underneath are the same. So for plus, we either have a plus. So let's look at the first plus. This first plus has to mean we either have a plus or we have a minus in our first 2 cells. Now to get this second plus, we must add another plus here because the second and the third have to be the same. And then in our minus situation, the last cell also has to be a minus, right? Because we want this, all 3 minuses would lead to 2 pluses. Okay, so that's how to get plus. And then now if you look at minus, the first minus comes from, we need 2 different signs. So we either have plus minus or we have minus plus. Now to get the second minus, we have to again have 2 different signs. So our middle and our third sign have to be different. So it would be minus plus and it would be plus minus. All right, so we can check this now. So if we have plus, that on top of this we would have a plus and a plus, right? Because obviously this plus and this plus are the same. And then the plus and the plus leads to a plus at the top. Now if we look at minus, 2 minuses lead to a plus. So you get 3 minuses is the 2 pluses. And then again, that leads to a plus. And you could check the same for the other 2. So now this is what our signs would be if we had 3 rows. So we can finish this up, our 4th row. So if we start with 4 pluses, and again, let's start with the first plus, the one on the complete left. That happens if we either have a plus underneath that, or we have a minus. Okay, now for the second plus, we need our second and our third signs to be the same. So in the plus situation, you just have another plus, and in the minus, you have another minus. And now lastly, our third plus means the third and the fourth signs have to be the same. So you would have 4 pluses or 4 minuses, right? So that's two possibilities. Now let's look at the minus minus. So we could, if we have our first minus, we know that's two different signs. So it's plus minus and minus plus. Now our second minus means the second and third signs have to be different. So you get plus minus plus or minus plus minus. And then for the third minus, that means third and the fourth signs have to be different. So ultimately you get plus minus right here, or you get minus plus minus plus. Okay, so that's so far. Let's circle or square all the combinations. So we have these four right now. Okay, let's kind of shift over our screen. Okay, now we look at the plus minus plus situation. Plus minus plus. So if we start with our plus, that means you have either a plus plus or you have a minus minus. Okay, now our second sign is a minus. This means our second and third signs have to be different. So you have plus plus minus or you have minus minus plus. And lastly, we have a plus as our third. So the third and the fourth signs in our fourth row must be the same. So you have plus plus minus minus, or you have minus minus plus plus. Okay, that's another two. And we finish off with minus plus minus. So let's draw these all the way out here. So, okay, now our first sign is a minus, which means different signs, right? So you either have plus minus or you have minus plus. Next, we have a plus, which means we repeat the sign. So you get minus here and a plus there. And then a third minus means different signs. So we'd have plus there and a minus there. And this gives us a total of 8 possibilities. And we could check this. It'd be a little time consuming, but you could just check up the tree diagram. And you'd see that we do indeed get 8 possible arrangements of pluses and minuses to get our final answer. So this was one way you could solve it. And as long as you stay focused or stay on track and make sure your work is nice and neat, you're not going to mess up as long as you just take your time. But it is obviously time consuming. So another way that you can do this is notice that plus and minus for our top cell would be a plus. That's symmetric to the top cell being a minus, right? And we already found 16 is a total number of arrangements, right? 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So if you're short on time and you need to make like a quick guess, it is pretty reasonable to assume that half of your possibilities will end in a plus, while half of them end in a minus, right? So you just take half of 16 and you get 8. And so obviously this might not be the greatest way because there's an element of maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's not a perfect half and half. But if you're short on time and you have to make a quick guess, then this would be what I would do. But either ways, you get the answer of 8, which is indeed the correct answer. So I'd circle that and move on to the next question. And that should be it for today. So thanks to everyone who watched the video. And if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like or subscribe. And be sure to join for tomorrow's video, same time. Thanks for everyone to watch. Thanks to everyone to watch.